Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Alan. And Alan is spelled A-L-A-N for those that don't know. Again, audibletrial.com/Alan.
For all of us, it's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today. This is the part of a series of interviews I conducted at the Internet Summit in Raleigh, North Carolina. Today we're talking to Jennifer Chase. She serves as the Senior Vice President in Global Marketing and Shared Services for SAS. Today on the show, we get into a number of topics, including customer experience and how data that SAS collects is helping it drive its customer experience as well as for its customers. We also get into topics of trust, security, transparency, and a host of other things. So I hope you enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Jennifer Chase. Well, welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here.
Well, what is it about SAS that lead people to work there for 20 or more years like yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just celebrated my 20th anniversary, and I like to joke I started when I was 5. You know, I think the secret sauce for SAS is, you know, we have a technology that is so purposeful, and I think all employees can get behind. I think everybody who works there believe that data and analytics can really transform the world. And so when you can get behind the software and the product you're selling, I mean, that makes it so much fun. The second aspect of that is the culture. And I think we've built a culture that goes well beyond having a ping pong board or having some fun. It's a culture where you really trust you trust your peers, you trust all of those around you, and you feel like you can take some risks, and you also feel like if you have an idea and the idea has merit and you can prove it out, there's somebody there who's going to listen and help you bring that to fruition. And so I think that's really exciting. You hear a lot about SAS and about our daycare and M&Ms, and so we've got amazing, and really Dr. Goodnight, our CEO and founder, pioneered a lot of the workplace culture benefits that many companies are adopting today. And so, of course, that makes it so, like every job, you know, sometimes you hit your head up against a wall. I think the walls at SAS are softer, right? And so you know you're going to be, your children have great daycare. You know that if you're sick, you're going to be able to go get health care that you need. So that's fantastic. And the other piece I'd like to point out is we really have a great culture when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And so when you look at the stats of SAS compared to other vendors, we've got a significant more amount of women in the workplace and in leadership positions. We've recently gotten some great coverage about our philosophy on neurodiversity and how we want to really make a place for all sorts of skills and talents at SAS. And we believe that when you bring those different cultures to the table to solve a problem, the outcome is going to be better when you've got diversity at the table.
I love it. I love what you guys stand for and how you treat your employees. As somebody that lives not too far from the headquarters, we also joke about the Kool-Aid that's getting drunk at SAS. It must be
M&Ms
good.
that are getting eaten,
yeah,
right?
I think it's the M&Ms, not the Kool-Aid. So I know you're talking about customer experience at the Internet Summit, which is where we're talking. How is SAS helping companies with customer experience? Yeah,
it's a great question. And I came to talk about customer experience. It's certainly something I'm passionate about in my role as marketing as well as a SAS user. So I've got this dual hat that I have at SAS of both being a marketing practitioner and a user of software. You know, I think what we see and where SAS can help our customers is to do customer experience in a way that is going to be meaningful. You have to start with this customer obsession, and you have to learn and know about your customers. And that's probably what's changed the most when we think about knowing your customer hasn't changed. That's been the case since the Mad Men days. But what you need to know about your customer now is so very different. And so when we talk about customer obsession, what we mean there is, do you know what does a typical day look like for your customer? This is well beyond the market segment of women aged 18 to 35, right? And it's not hyper-targeting or hyper-personalization. It's what do they do over the course of the day? Where do they go to get their information, and who do they trust? When they choose to do business with you, why? And when they choose not to do business with you, why? Or even worse, if they decide to leave you, why did they leave you, right? So it all starts with that customer obsession, and to have that, you need data. And of course, that's where SAS comes in, and really helping companies understand the data that they have about their customers, finding it within their companies, bringing it together in a way that's meaningful, and then getting it into the fingertips of marketers. And that's something that I've certainly, as a SAS user, made made sure that my organization they're empowered to have that data right at their fingertips, so that as they're designing their campaigns or adjusting on the fly, it's all centered around the data and the customer.
Well, like you said, data is at the heart of helping to design and deliver a good experience. How can companies make sure that they are using their data appropriately?
Yeah, and a lot of this gets down to trust.
Right.
And we talk about that a lot because, if you can't create a high level of trust with your customers, you are not going to create a high level of a customer experience.
Right.
Full stop. And so, I think all of us as a marketing field went through a big learning curve in 2017 and 2018 as we went through GDPR. Right? And that's not the comfort zone for marketers. We're either, we're usually that creative mindset, and now all of a sudden we're having to become legal and IT experts in some ways. And so we survived, right? And I joke, I think we should get T-shirts printed that say, I survived GDPR. But we survived, but along the way, I think we elevated the profession in that. We learned to more reliably source contact information. I think that it forced us to be more creative and ensure that we're being relevant, because a customer's not going to give up their information if they're not going to get value in return, right? And then I think it's prepared us all so that we're ready for whatever the next privacy law is, because there's going to be more coming. We know that. But rightfully so. It allowed us to build some bridges. I don't know, for me, I had a much tighter connection with my counterparts in legal and IT. And now I'm able to use that as even a foundation to do even more. So the first step with trust is really around compliance. And then the second is around security. And again, these aren't sexy topics typically for marketers, but we've got to be well versed in this. And I think with security, for me, when you think about security breaches, and every time there's a security breach, my first thought is, oh my gosh, was I impacted? Was my family impacted? But then I very quickly turn to, well, what kind of impact is this going to have on consumer confidence?
Right.
Because one misstep by a brand really erodes trust, not only for that brand, but for all of us. And so this is an area where I think as marketers, we got to put our competition aside and say, let's join forces and do this better.
Right.
Let's all raise our game. And I'd say that the next step to really how you can use trust as a competitive advantage is going to be around transparency. So we did a research study called Experience 2030, and we teamed up with Daniel Newman of Futurum Technologies. And I can talk more about that, but one of the insightful findings from that is that consumers really want to have a high level of control over how their data is used. And so what was probably table stakes for us as marketers of, all right, do I have an opt-in and opt-out? Is it plain English? Like, do I need a law degree in order to read the opt-in, opt-out policy, or is it clear? Can I find it? We now have to go, I think, this whole other level of being really transparent and not just telling them, but showing our customers, here's how we're using your data. Here's how I've applied the data and the gift that you've given me in terms of your information in order to create a better experience for you. And I think that's where transparency is a whole new level of really thinking about how you get to trust in a meaningful way. And the companies that do that better, I think, are going to have a much higher competitive advantage.
Right. I was just talking to someone earlier from Microsoft, actually, and we talked about a little bit about this transparency, but also like the fact that most users are willing to give their data in return for some value creation, right?
Absolutely.
And as marketers, we have to keep that in mind. It's not just about more data,
right?
But what are we doing with it that actually helps the customer out?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's definitely been a mindset shift for all marketers. Is we used to put our company or our campaigns at the center of our planning process, and we've really had to do a 180 on that. Say, no, that might be the outcome, but the center of gravity really is that customer, and start there.
Yeah. Good. Are there examples that come to mind in terms of like SaaS customers that you guys are helping with the experience solution or problems that they're having that they're trying to...
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one example that would resonate with nearly everybody is the Orlando Magic. And I think when we think about sports analytics, we often go right to, all right, how are players being evaluated and how are you using that for the athletes? Yeah. And that's not the case here. So what, and they're using SaaS for that as well. But we've teamed up with Orlando Magic for a while now to help them understand their data. And in this past 2 years, what we've really worked with them on is the fan experience. And how can they create a really meaningful fan experience? Because they're in a market where there's a lot of entertainment, right? And so what we've done in particular with them is they've got this great set of season ticket holders. So 100% of those season ticket holders use their mobile app. So they've got, right there, they've got this channel. They have a voice into them. So then it was, how do they use that more effectively? And so they teamed up with SAS, and they're also using using some other vendors as part of this tech stack to look at how can they communicate effectively with fans during the game. So they've got beacons that can tell them where the fan is, and they can send push notifications via the mobile app of, hey, there's a shorter line over here for you to get your concessions. Yeah. Or they can provide them with in-game discounts or offers based on what they know about them and the segments that they've created. And so what they found is for their season ticket holders that are using this technology, they've got a 20% increase in their customer satisfaction score.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It really is to
it's
see.
Magic.
It's magic. Very magical.
Wow.
Well
and we did not even plan. I need a high five on that. We didn't plan that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would say, I joked earlier about how I'm a marketing practitioner and a SAS user. SAS is part of my tech stack. My technology stack includes a lot of other technologies, but I certainly have SAS at the core. And we put SAS into play on our website. So we realized, all right, back to that customer obsession and that relentless focus on customers. Our customer contact center was finding, look, we're really not serving two key audiences for us very well. And that was our students, university students, and then lifelong learners. And so what is, I think, table stakes for us as marketers now, they went back to the website and said, how can we improve the web experience? Because they've got some common questions that they're not able to answer right away. So check, we did that. But then we said, how can we apply AI? That's what we do as a company, right? So let's apply AI. So we teamed up with our research and development staff and developed a chatbot. And we taught the chatbot. We had to inform the chatbot with our CRM data so they knew about customer behavior. We put web data in there. And then we trained it to understand sentiment as well as to understand some frequently asked questions. And so what we found is that chatbot is now in a very transparent way. So we don't mask that you're talking to a chatbot, right? That chatbot is engaging with students and really creating a very meaningful experience. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of change management we worked through with the contact center staff because I think in this day and age, we're hearing all this hype around AI and people are thinking, am I going to be replaced by a machine or a robot? And the answer is an unequivocal no, you're not. And that was the case for the contact center. So in this case, what we did was we allowed the bot to take care of some of those common questions, and then we freed them up to do really more meaningful and complex customer inquiries. And so now we're able to serve not only that original audience better, but now we've got this whole other audience that we're engaging with. So just some examples of how technology is applied to improve that customer experience. But I would say a common pitfall we need to make sure that as marketers we're thinking through, because technology can be fun and some of these pilots can be exciting, make sure you've got that use case, that really defined use case of what you're trying to solve for, and that it's solving a problem for the customer, not that you want to throw some technology at it.
Right. Well, if you were in front of a bunch of marketers, which you will be when this airs, what should marketers be doing or considering when they're trying to understand how to improve their customer experience? Where would you tell them to start or things to think about?
And I think customer experience is going to change so much over the next 10 years. And how, if you dream about, like, gosh, when you're sick, are drones going to be delivering your medicines? And when you go to a grocery store, you're going to engage with a human or a machine. And, the world's going to change a lot in the 10 years. So that's equal parts exciting and sometimes overwhelming. And so what I talk about with marketers is there's 5 things you can do to, future-proof yourself and future-proof the business right now. And that first one is get focused on customer experience. Make sure you're on the customer data. So the first thing I would advise marketers to do is really understand your analytic maturity. And I say that as a marketer at SAS, and we provide industry-leading analytics. I'm constantly looking at my team's analytic maturity. Do we have all the data, first-party, third-party data that we need? Do we know where our data is? Have we broken down those data silos? And then is the team empowered and trained to be able to really gain insights from that data and apply it? So really look at your analytic maturity. The second recommendation I would have is start small and find some wins and really celebrate those wins, because this is the road to customer experience success. It's a journey, and so you got to find those short-term wins. And I talked about the chatbot example. We actually that started as a pilot that's now business as usual, and our CEO highlighted that on main stage at one of our flagship conferences just last month. And so what a celebration, right? We really got to enjoy that success. The third thing I'd say is be a customer experience champion within your organization. And I do believe that customer experience is a whole company sport, but marketers are really uniquely positioned to move this forward. And so be that champion, but really think through, be that champion of the customer experience. experience and be the voice of the customer. And as a marketer, you have access to that data. Right. And if your moral compass is pointed towards what's right for the customer, you're in a good place, right? The fourth thing I would say is build those cross-divisional bridges. You can't do this alone. You need to have those partners. Just like with GDPR, I made better friends with the legal and IT team. Yeah. But all of us in an organization need to be working on customer experience. So team up with sales, with IT, certainly once again, legal, finance, HR. Every group has their own view of customer experience. And if you can go at it as a group, you're going to be more successful. And then the last thing I'd say, and it's a little cliche, but we talk about embracing change. I think you need to instigate change when it comes to customer experience, because if you're not disrupting yourself, you're not disrupting your company, your customers will. And so they have a different expectation. And if you're not you're not changing to meet that, then they're going to choose to do business elsewhere.
I love that. I love the instigate change, not just drive it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Well, last question for you. What do you think the future of customer experience looks like? I know we just talked about the 10 years. It's hard to predict anything, so I'm asking you potentially to do the thing that's the hardest thing to do. But where do you think it's going to end up?
Yeah, so I mentioned we did this research study with Daniel Newman of Future Research, and we did that because we wanted to charter our own course, but then also help our customers. And so the research really came up with some bold predictions along the way, and on topics like how wearables are going to be much more embedded into our day-to-day, and it even envisions a world where you can buy with your eyes because of the way wearables can be. And so imagine how much that changes for those of us on the retail marketing side, right? I think something else we really didn't talk about at all was blockchain and the impact blockchain is going to have even more broadly. And the research imagined a future where maybe we can end fake news because we've got blockchain looking at where's the source of data coming from. And so I think that part is really fascinating. I do believe that we're going to see augmented reality and virtual reality be much more a part of our day-to-day lives. And we see that with our kids with Pokemon Go, right? But I think retailers are out in front of this trend. You think of L'Oreal, who's got apps to help you choose the right lipstick, and that struggle is real. Like, that's meaningful. But then Gucci has something where you're able to see what the clothes look like on you. IKEA can bring the store to your home. I think we as marketers need to find ways to help our customers experience our technology in a more immersive way.
I love it. Well, Jen, thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love to hear from listeners, and you can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes with links to anything we talk about on any episode. You can also search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Alan. And Alan is spelled ALAN for those that don't know. Again, audibletrial.com/Alan.